Hello and welcome back to Skillsoft presents ET Studios HR Tech Connect in association with ETHRWorld. I'm your host Himanshi Tiwari. Now, as we know that the workforce is changing faster than structures can keep up, roles are blurring, skills are expiring quickly, and personalization is no longer a nice to have. It is the baseline. And our theme for this session is capability at the core, personalization and agility for the next workforce. We look at how organizations are building learning systems that stay agile, relevant, and deeply connected to business outcomes. Joining me for today's session are leaders shaping talent and capability at scale. Dimple Kaloya, Head of Human Resources Global Service Centers, India and Group Functions GSC HTCs at HSBC. I'm also joined by Smita Nagpal, Global People and Development Senior Director at BCG, Aman Kumar Jha, Director Learning and Development at Expedia, Monica Mehra, Head Corporate HR, Talent Management and L&D at Devyani International, and of course Devesh Asindwad, Vice President and Country Head, Skillsoft India. Now let's get straight into the conversation. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation, and I want to start by understanding how each one of you thinks about the learning architecture today. And if I start with you, Smita, when we look ahead 2026, how do you think, or what approach do you believe will sort of have the major impact on business performance?
Thank you firstly for having me today. It's a pleasure. I think, in the VUCA world that we are in, what is going to really make the difference is to stay ahead of the curve and act really fast. Yeah. So that's what I think will help us and help the business sort of have an edge above the others.
All right, Aman, what about you?
I think what's important in today's world is speed of change. That's phenomenal. And how do you cope up with the speed of change? How do you identify the learning needs? And how do you quickly adapt to fulfill those learning needs and close that skill gap to meet the business objectives? That's going to be crucial.
All right, Monica, which approach will have the major impact on business
I
performance?
completely agree with Aman when he says, so in our organization, which is moving at a very fast pace, so I firmly believe that learning agility is the next go-to rhythm.
Those are the keywords.
Yes. So unlearning and relearning and keeping pace with the market changes is what will drive business performance.
All right, what about you, Dimple?
I think 4 things: speed of learning, speed of change, speed of skilling, and speed of customer impact would be the key for business performance.
All right, what about you, Devesh? You've got the bird's eye view for the entire
I think
ecosystem.
We have said most of the things for and there's hardly anything left. But what I would say to tie this together is learning agility, of course, that has come up, and the ability to be comfortable with ambiguity. With the pace of change and the things that are coming up, you really can't predict everything, you can't see everything, but you have to be comfortable in it to keep stepping forward.
All right, well, thank you so much for setting the context for us and giving us the keywords for the conversation ahead. And Smita, if I come back to you, we are in a world where market dynamics, client expectations, technology is constantly changing, right? So how do you sort of ensure that there is continuous learning with these changing aspirations as well, and especially augmented with AI? Basically, how are you keeping your organization or giving your organization a competitive edge with continuous learning?
I think I'll tie it up with whatever the first question, the approach, right? It will always be crucial for one to be one with the changing trends, right? Yeah. So be with the changing trends, be aware of the changing trends, and like I said previously, act fast, right? And that's where AI will come into the picture, right? AI is not here to replace learning, but AI will support you in identifying those patterns very fast, on which you can act really, really fast, stay agile, and at the same time, make sure that you are staying ahead of the curve by having your manpower in your workforce unlearn, relearn, and learn and learn and learn.
Yeah. All right, Aman, if you can come into the conversation, we know that product and engineering teams are always under constant pressure, right? And while a lot of us spoke about speed, right, how important speed is in today's era, how do you sort of balance the speed with, with deliberate skill development so that learning debt do not increase?
Yeah. And I think that's a very relevant question in today's context. We are in an environment where changes are required very, very fast. So we do not have months' time and a year's time to skill a workforce and then go reap the benefits. So what we do is we kind of divide and look at a modular learning, because rapid skill development is the need of the hour. So what we do is we divide them into modules, look at what exactly the need or the changing dynamics needs to be catered to, and deliver those trainings so that our skilled workforce is ready well in time ahead of the need. So that's going to be the key.
All right, then moving on to you, Monica, you deal with such diverse teams, diverse roles, diverse locations, right? So how do you sort of ensure that there is personalized learning for each one of them? Like, how do you scale that personalized learning? And while you do that, what's your biggest challenge as well?
So in our case, the challenge is not technology, of course, it's relevance at large. So one size fits all does not suit our proposition, being a very large organization with multiple roles spread across diverse geographies. So one size doesn't fit all. So for example, a store manager would not learn at the same pace as a finance manager, and a barista in a store would not learn as a brand leader. So we need personalized trainings as per the role. So then it becomes the bigger challenge for us. How do we personalize those trainings and give that experience to each and every individual learner? So now how we are solving for this is, so we have a 3-model approach. The first one being role-based curated learning journeys for every role. So let me give an example. So for example, for a new joiner at the store, it is 30 days to confidence. For a store manager, it is leading with profitability, and for a brand leader, of course, it is driving growth and complexity. So role-based defined curated learning journeys to suit each and every individual learner. Then second is we also track their performances. So we measure the KPIs, how they are performing on business metrics, be it top line, bottom line, the attrition scores, the customer service scores, or the audit scores. Where performance drops, the training shows up. So training and learning is not optional. It is a proactive approach that we use, and it is embedded in our system. And last but not the least, since we are a very large workforce, we don't pull people out of work. We push learning into work, so we believe in small-sized micro-learnings, 3-minute videos, small WhatsApp nudges with which we are helping our learners to grow and learn faster.
All right, Dimple, if you can come into the conversation, from role families to skill signals, how are you translating these roles across GCCs, GSCs and group functions, of course, and how do you ensure that your employees get their clear pathways, and also for for the managers to get reliable signals for both mobility and, of course, deployment?
It's a brilliant question. One of the things that we did, I think around 3 years ago, Himanshi, was we got back to our basics. And what that basically meant was getting down to defining our architecture of jobs itself. What are the families? What are the clusters of skills we have? What are some of the levels and proficiencies in each of the skills? What are enterprise-wide skills, and what are skill clusters that can create mobility across the organization and create transparency and visibility of skills as well. Enabling managers, not just from a skill standpoint and career pathway standpoint, and employees as well, but also from a reward standpoint. How are you encouraging the right kind of transparency of rewards? And one of the things that we are trying to do continuously is build open culture around pay as well, as much as possible. Equity around these things. So if you gain a skill, what does that mean in terms of progression to the next band, to the next level, etc. So that's something that we've been looking at, have been implementing it, trying to disrupt it as much as possible. And obviously that framework helps us add new skills as they come along, because as we've established, learning is an everyday thing now, and you need to keep adding new skills to a framework. So having a framework as a baseline was the first critical juncture that we went with, and has certainly helped us.
All right. Devesh, you've been a part of the ecosystem for so long. You've seen a lot of organizations incorporating different learning techniques and changing their entire learning operating systems. From that perspective, what's your blueprint? What's Skillsoft's blueprint when it comes to moving organizations from siloed learning to actually creating an ecosystem of learning, a connected ecosystem for that matter?
Sure. No, thank you so much, Himanshi. And I think this is critical, right? And I'll take a clue from what Dimple just said. It's about basically starting with a purpose. And I think when you define your skills taxonomy, aligning to the job architecture, everything then starts flowing. Okay, from here. So our approach is three-pronged, and it's basically about building an equilibrium between data, content, and workflow integrations. So basically taking the data in terms of who is the learner and what are those roles or skills that they are entrusted with and they need to develop, and then looking at content aligning to the role and the skill gaps that might be there. So we have benchmarks, we have assessments with purpose, which actually drive and that sync between data and content, and then taking learning to where the learner is rather than the other way around. So therefore, workflow integration, which is whether it is in MS Teams, whether it is in your Salesforce application, whether it is in your LMS or your LXP or within the Skillsoft Percipio platform, making sure that learning is available anytime, any place, when it matters the most, so that they can be more productive. So that's how it is.
All right. So while we are talking about the changing dynamics and of course how we all are adapting to it, we are also talking about AI, right? We know that how fast it's changing. We at this point in time, we all know what is AI, but we actually don't know like what are the nuances of AI, which is perhaps changing every day. So Smita, if I come to you, when we talk about AI, how do you use AI in a way that it detects the skill gaps, the skill needs of your organizations, of your employees before they turn into a full-blown capability gaps?
I'll take the clue from Devyansh. What Devyansh has talked about, taking the data, mapping it to the skill set need of a learner, and then customizing it or personalizing it and making it available to where the learner is, right? With AI, one of the things that we have done is we have invested in a AI-based learning platform.
Okay.
Now, the same process can be done manually. Once it's the same thing, and AI can help us do it faster and quicker. So it helps us identify those patterns, right? And once you know those patterns a bit ahead, it also predicts what would be more needed. Like our clients constantly are asking for stuff, right? And if our teams are not able to provide that output because of the lack of those tools and techniques, knowledge, right? You put that data, the AI will help you identify those patterns ahead of time, right? And so you quickly adapt and come up with these learning profiles, the learning needs. You upskill your people, or rather I would say you reskill, you remodel. At the same time, you use those patterns and that predictive model to hire ahead of the time as well, to stay really up to date, relevant. The whole idea with AI really is does AI make us future ready? My response will be yes. That's where the key is.
Yeah. When we talk about AI being future ready in terms of learning, in terms of technology, of course, there's one very important point for all the organizations, and of course, the management sitting at the top is ROI. Right? So, Aman, if you can come into the conversation, how are you linking those learning signals to performance outcomes? Because at the end of the day, we all are looking for that, right?
And I think that's a very important thing of learning. How do we determine what is the potential success or training success is going to look like? And it's like a destructive testing. It's very, very expensive. The cost is huge. what you have at stake is the entire, and if I go in terms of the service industry or any other industry for that matter, it compromises the entire entity. How do we ensure that that destructive testing is not happening and we are able to save the entire entity from being compromised? One of the ways of doing that is obviously knowledge retention check, which is like age old, but moving into the new world with a lot of technology coming in, AI coming in, what we can do is we can check the learning outcomes with the help of a simulated environment. We have augmented reality, we have virtual reality. With the help of those, every click becomes an information, a data, and every click stream becomes an information. That gives you the insight in terms of how the learner has retained that knowledge and is going to apply that knowledge in a real world environment. Now, moving a step further, now AI enables us to act as a real client or a virtual client or a customer or a virtual, I would say, set of requirements that can be fulfilled. When those interactions happens with a finished product or a learner, how the learner is able to respond to those scenarios, that's going to be very, very crucial. And those assessments can be done automatically by AI as well. So AI can play as a customer and can evaluate how good the response is. What this does is it helps us become successful once the learner hits the floor really, and thereby improves the chances of business success significantly.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say, what we are seeing right now in that space is how organizations are moving from learning metric to basically business metric. And there are steps in between for doing that actually. So learning metric is simple, how many hours of learning, how many repeat learners, what number of courses taken and all of that. Now that's old. The next step after that is your skill metric. Skill metric is basically through assessments. So we have those skill benchmarks and assessments and all of that. So where were you before and where were you after? Where are you after? Then it comes to behavior metrics, which is where, like Aman, you mentioned, your simulations and your practice labs and all of that come in from a technology point of view and all of that. So whether you'll be able to, apply those concepts in a real world simulated environment, in a safe environment, and then what's the assessment of it. The AI today can allow you to actually go back and give you feedback and metrics around that. And then finally moving to business metric, which is about how has this moved the needle, whether my sales have improved, whether my errors have come down, whether my ENPS has improved for a new manager training, for example, and so on and so forth. So that's where I think the ROI comes in, and that's where we are seeing a lot of action in terms of how Skillsoft is supporting and what our customers are demanding.
All right. Monica, if you can quickly come into the conversation, like if you had to name that one capability against the constant disruption we all are talking about, what would that be? And also talk to us about how do we scale that?
Okay. Very interesting question. So if I have to name one ability, that is the learning agility, which I spoke in the beginning, the ability to unlearn and relearn faster than the market. The space we are in, there are a lot of changes happening on a day-to-day basis, whether it is the menu mixes, the consumer sentiments and their behaviors, the employee codes, a lot of changes are happening. And it's imperative for us to stay ahead of those changes and make our people also ahead of this change by keeping them unlearn the past and relearn whatever is coming in the future. So how we are addressing this concern is we again have a 3-layered model. I'll give you 3 keywords for that. That is, one is unavoidable. So we make learning unavoidable by linking it with certification. Certification is linked with the growth and promotion and incentives. So if anybody wants to grow and earn more, learning becomes imperative. Then second is we make it safe. So like I said, a lot of menu mixes and changes are happening. So our people have to learn those products and services. So we don't open the house for the entire population. We try and test it in smaller geographies and smaller domains. So once that test and pilot run successfully, then we roll it out for the entire organization. Third is we make it visible. So we make the learning visible by having the buy-in of the business. So we have the brand leaders partner with us right from the beginning, right from curating the content to helping us in rolling out the pilot programs and also facilitating some of the key sessions with the audiences. So this is how we are addressing this concern and bringing agility into the
All right.
learning system.
All right, Dimple, when we talk about your organization, of course, or any GSE for that matter, there are a lot of surges that happen in any GSEs, be it fraud spikes, be it KYC refreshes or constant regulatory updates. First of all, how do you keep up with that, right? And of course, what learning design or what learning pattern do you approach when it comes to keeping up with these constant surges while also taking care of the fatigue, the academy fatigue that your employees might face in this interval?
Yeah, no, I think as in the point that I made earlier, that we started off on this program of the job architecture was primarily to cater to this fatigue and the lack of usage of academies in many ways. In fact, the problem that came to us from business was we need a liquid workforce. So we went behind and tried to understand what does it really mean, what do you really need, and the liquid workforce angle was create fungibility in workforce, which means that when it surges, and like how you said in banking specifically, there is enough and more surges that come, Christmas sales to Boxing Day sales to Republic Day sales and stuff like that create surges in the back end with the transactions, and that creates a gap in identifying and giving people the time to deliver those surges. So what do you do with it? So what we did was we tried to make sure that we again went back to basics. Once we had the architecture, it was really important to define the workforce plans. So it's really important to have clarity in workforce plans. What is the maximum you can deliver with what you have? What is the skill that is then needed in the skill architecture that you have? And how many people need to get trained on it? So within a skill cluster, for example, could you train, instead of the 100 people that you have, the 300 that we have for the broader cluster? When the surges come, so you tap into those resources and workforce plans can be rostered around that. The third thing that we did was make sure that it is not fatigued by training through 3 months of training. It needs to be bite-sized training. It needs to be training in the moment. Like how Monica said, in terms of driving, what is the need of the hour? If it's, for example, KYC, it's understanding the customer form at the end of the day and making sure the entire organization of the 300 headcount understands the customer form. And if there is a surge in it, we can get everyone to participate in it and understand the systems, the knowledge, the tool associated with it. So break it down in a way that it is friendly to the understanding of the average employee. And the bottom line in doing this, wearing my HR hat, was also driving better operational resilience and driving well-being. Because when surges come, business wants to deliver, right? They may not be in the capacity to think of well-being. So forward planning around these skills, forward planning around your workforce infrastructure, your workforce rosters is the mantra. It's not a silver bullet, but it's a mantra. It's an ingredient to solve for these surges.
Yeah. All right, Devesh, from the platform, from the ecosystem lens, how do you sort of create, or how does Skillsoft sharpen the skills framework that we are all talking about, right? And how do you make sure that employees see clear pathways, and also the managers? When we talk about the managers, I had asked this question to someone else, but now this question is about measuring the impact. How do they coach their employees to measure the performance as well?
Yeah. No, I think very relevant, and I think it's going to be grabbing more attention, because as we move forward, more organizations are going to move towards a skill-based structure, right? Skills are truly going to be the currency of the future. So our blueprint or the framework there is basically to start with skills taxonomy, aligning to job architecture, okay? Then moving to the next level in terms of having those proficiency levels that mean something, okay? That's very important, because those proficiency levels can help you then align content and find those gaps which might be existing. Third would be creating personalized, curated learning paths to make sure that it aligns to the learning behaviors and expectations. It has to have a combination of off-the-shelf content, bite-sized learning that I heard of, It has to have flexibility to bring in the organizational context. Okay, going forward, it's always going to be, we don't see a place only for off the shelf to sit independently and proprietary content to sit independently. It will have to be a blend of both. So therefore, we are investing in creating tools to democratize content build creation at customer's end. So the instructional design elements come from Skillsoft. You can use as a customer whatever internal resources that you may have, package it quickly and push it out to meet the business demands and have that agility that is required to respond quickly. So imagine if you are bringing up a new product, okay, and you have the ability to in half a day or 2 hours, 3 hours time, package a learning content and push it out to your front line so that they can go through it as you release the product. So that's what we are going to, and then a combination of coming back to where I was, so combination of those resources, role plays that Aman spoke about, and all of that. Coaching maybe, from a manager point of view. So that would be the next element. And then at the end of the day, looking at the matrix, from an outcome point of view. I've spoken about that already, moving from learning metric to the business metric that I just spoke about, and having that ecosystem. And what's important, sorry, I'll take another 10-15 seconds over here, is that what's important is that the matrix or the BI should be sitting on top of it, where it actually can pick up data from across different applications and then give you the story that you're looking for. Because a siloed system will not be able to give you that impact unless and until you have that visibility and that meaning behind data. Okay, you will not be able to create that ROI metric, neither will you be able to showcase the value of learning and how learning has moved the needle. So that's how Skillsoft is doing it, and that's how we are seeing a lot of our customers doing it with our support.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Devesh. And, with all of you, it has been a wonderful conversation. We discussed a lot in very less time. And that's a skill, right? I generally end my panels with a takeaway for our audiences. And this time, Devesh, I'll start with you, because I'll not let you say every time that they have already spoken whatever I wanted to speak.
Yeah. Of course.
So if our audiences, we want to leave them with just one step that they want to take this quarter to future-proof their learning, what would that be?
I think embrace AI. Embrace AI is in short, but if I were to, elaborate on that, AI can, amplify the impact of learning and can do a lot of stuff. Okay, maybe 60 to 70% of the overall learning, ecosystem AI can manage, so that you can focus on what is more human and what is more contextual to the organization. So that would be my message, to use AI to amplify impact of learning.
Yeah. What about you, Dimple?
I'd say two things. I think everyone needs to be relentless at learning agility, but I'd top it up to say relentless at learning agility with the keen eye on business problem solving. Right? And the second thing I would also say is that we need more people who are strategic problem solvers, who are also looking to build from ground up. So if you can get to think around those things, that will be the next world of work and the workforce that we need.
All right. What about you?
So the most important thing that we are going to take forward in the next quarter is, rather than offering trainings, the shift has to be to engineering capability. So when I say engineering capability, so we already have critical roles identified for specific markets, especially the pace with which we are growing. The store managers and the area managers would always be in DERs. So creating those roles, role-based journeys, and having our people ready to take up those roles by building in curated learning paths, embedding them with the 3E model learnings, and providing those learnings to our people, so that with the changing time and pace, our people are also ready to embrace that change and take up the next level.
All right. What about you?
I'm a firm believer that tech is always something which assists humans to exceed whatever boundaries we have known, so go beyond the boundary. But looking at that human and tech combination, how it's going to work forward is targeted learning, and that's the way forward. Is you need to know what is it that you need to learn. And as Dimple said once, you also need to know who is the target audience that you need to cover. So with the combination, with the help of tech and AI today, we get to know what is it that needs to be covered in terms of targeted learning and what is the targeted audience that we need to cover, and then approach and get the skill gap fulfilled as quickly as possible. So that's the way forward for me.
All right. What about you?
Almost all the points are covered, but we are here to enable business, right? And if skill is going to be the new currency, I'd say invest in AI.
Yeah. All right. From whatever discussion we had, one thing is clear: when we talk about agility, when we talk about personalization at scale, these terms are no longer about just tools and platforms, right? They are more about making capabilities visible, actionable, and embedding into how the work actually gets done, right? Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being a part of this panel. And to our viewers, stay tuned for many, many more such exciting conversations only at ETHRWorld.